Good evening, and welcome to the Halas Wilbourn Show, where we welcome successful people worldwide to share their stories. This show is devoted for entrepreneurs, celebrities, and people just like you. Today's guest, we have a fabulous doctor from Michigan, originated from Michigan. She's an author and a health specialist, Dr. Patricia Boulogne. How you doing, Dr. Boulogne?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Glad you can make it. It's good to
hmm
see you.
Yes.
Hey, so you want to? Well, I know that you're originated from Michigan, but you want to tell us about you growing up in Michigan and moving to Atlanta?
Well, it's funny you should know that. I grew up in suburbs of Detroit and went to typical school, grade school, high school, and I had this aspiration. Even when I was a kid, I played doctor. So I ended up one day. I was in school in Atlanta. Excuse me. I was in school in Atlanta for chiropractic school. That's how I got there for that. And before that, I was in school in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Oh, so growing up, you played doctor. Now, were you the doctor or the patient?
I was always the doctor.
Oh,
I was
wow,
never the sick person. I was never the nurse. I was always play the doctor.
wow, that's amazing. So, with your time in Atlanta, you went to school here.
Well, how I ended up getting down there to go to school is a very good friend of mine decided to be a chiropractor. And actually, everybody who I studied with in my pre-med courses were they all being chiropractors. Nobody went to med school. And so, but he pulled me aside one day and said, "This is for you. You've got to do this." And I said, "No, I don't." And he goes, "Yes, you do." And he goes, "No, you don't." And we had this like, let's drop the subject. Let's move on. And so, about a couple months after that, I hurt my shoulder. And I said, "Well, I'm going to go see this chiropractor, see what it's about." He did a very good job at planting the seed. And then went to see this chiropractor, and I couldn't stand him. And I went, "Gosh, if he could do this, so can I." And so that's how I left his office, never looked back, went and filled out an application to go to school, was accepted, figured out the date I was going to start, and I never looked back.
Wow. Um, so I understand that your dream. You want to tell us about your dream about your dream of and your success. It says that to live in Italy and help masses of people and realize that their health and their potential.
Well, I've always had a fondness for Italy. Every time I leave there, I cry. And every time I get there, I'm just so happy. And it always was a fit for me. And so anytime I had an opportunity to go there, I was on a plane. When, I've traveled not all of Italy, but a good, the big three for sure, uh, Florence, Rome, and Venice is the big ones that, Americans have a tendency to go visit. But I was also had the opportunity to do other excursions there. But it just felt like my favorite pair of gloves being in Italy.
Oh, great. Hey, so like during this situation, this current situation that we're in about well with the pandemic, what are some of the things that you would suggest to people that that are that are really thinking about taking the vaccine? What would you advise?
Not to. The reason for it is that I'm not opposed to vaccinations. I am opposed to vaccinations that they don't know outcomes. And they're not very transparent with what type of ingredients are in them. And so a lot of vaccines have a very long insert. And I've seen one of them that a girl who's about maybe 5'5", she had this insert that was like from her shoulders like down to her knees. And I go, who can read all that and understand it? And there is there's some they've renamed like fetal material, and that's in a lot of vaccinations. There's heavy metals that are in vaccinations, and this vaccination came about so quickly. They're not going through their normal protocol. And the misconception is that if you take a vaccine, you'll be protected 100%. And that's not true. And especially you have a recovery rate for a lot of people that are is up like by like 97, 99%. That's huge. So I don't understand the logic behind that. And or how the media keeps on, having that scare tactic that they keep on doing and fear mongering so that people are second guessing their common sense. This doesn't make sense to me, and I don't see where in one article I read, and it was in CNNBC. They said that the second trial in Pfizer, people were having significant like side symptoms from it. And so it wants more investigation, and they need to be very transparent as to what's in it and what the side effects are those, so that people can make an educated decision. And people should ask not for, because a lot of times when you ask for the insert, they will hand you the summary sheet. You don't want the summary sheet. You want the insert because you want to know what they know.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I thought that maybe if, I mean, they offered the vaccination for the healthcare providers first. Um, but I think if it backfire, then we wouldn't have anyone to take care of the people that actually got sick. I think maybe
Bingo.
they should probably offer it to the politicians. What you think?
Oh, I think they should be the first ones to go. I've got a list.
But I
But
guess it really would. I guess it really wouldn't matter if it backfired or not, huh?
well, a lot of healthcare providers that I know, and in my readings, they're not for the vaccine. And a lot of people who I know who are nurses, it's mandatory that they have their flu shot. The flu shot last year was a failure. And you keep on taking the thing is, and my understanding is the flu shot's taken from the virus the year before that, the flu before. So the flu in 2020 would be the flu shot for 2021. And so you take that vaccine, and then it's a dead attenuated organism. A lot of people I know, when they tell me that they have taken it, they've gotten sicker than if they normally had the flu. So it just makes people more susceptible, and there's a lot of side effects from it that are really not kosher.
Wow. Well, I can imagine. Now you have this saying that you use that's stronger than medicine. So when it comes to things that's stronger than medicine, I would be thinking immediately that that you are more health conscious and more of letting your body heal on its own. What do you have to say about that?
Well, as a chiropractor, as my first training, I've seen miracles with people being adjusted and having total reversals in their health. And in the Stronger Than Medicine program that I developed, it's for, a lot of people are exhausted. They have their mindsets off, their productivity. And at the end of the day, they're all exhausted. They don't have any thing left over for their relationships, whoever they're with, whether it's a significant other, their kids, their parents, their dogs, their cat, whoever. And so on the Stronger Than Medicine portion, you have to take a look at, your body was made and it has the ability to heal itself if it's given the right venue and the right pathway to go down. If you don't go down the right pathway, then it's like climbing up a hill without the right with the right equipment. You got to have the right equipment, and you got to have all the components there working. And when you do, you have the opportunity for the body to go into the mode that it knows how to do best. And because I think in Western medicine, their protocol is like whatever they know what's in a box and what they're taught, but they're not taught how to think out of the box. because when they don't know what to do, their first thing is that they're going to do surgery. I mean, we know
Oh,
so many people will say like, "Well, we don't know what else to do, so we're going to do exploratory surgery." I don't know anybody who wants to be a guinea pig.
ex- exactly. So,
Mhm.
so how do you identify and manage the stress that that you come to on day by day? Is it any way that you can elaborate on
I
how a person
deflect
can
it.
do that? Pardon?
I said I deflect it. The one thing that I do is I constantly ask myself when something's really irritating me or bothering me, I ask myself, is there anything I can do about this? Even when I can't sleep at night, like, and I tell people who can't sleep at night, this is really a good protocol to do, is ask yourself, like, what's bugging me? Whatever it is. Second question is, can I do anything about it right now? And then the third thing is, if you can, go do it. And the fourth, if not, write it down and go to sleep. Likewise, in the daytime, when you're thinking about stress, I think I pace myself. I make sure that I have, good thoughts, good deeds. If I don't have something to say, I really try not to say it. And I like to help people. So I get a lot of pleasure out of figuring out solutions for people and how to get and to make sense of convoluted, you know, uh, challenging situations so that they can get past that and they can make better decisions and they can have the breakthroughs that they need. So that's kind of where when I think about stress, I just think about, you just focus on something that has benefit for a lot of people and your stress it's going to be there one way or another. Stress can be good or it can be bad.
Yes, because I noticed that some people that I talk to that during this pandemic they haven't been getting much sleep, and
Mhm.
they've been suffering from sleep deprivation, and I was wondering if it was happening worldwide versus just a person going through the stresses that through normal life, or is it something that they were thinking about subconsciously of the pandemic, which was causing them stress and losing sleep.
Well, I think the pandemic accentuates any problem that you have in any level of health, whether it's the new diet, exercise, uh, sleep, positive mental attitude, and your posture. Because when people get stressed, they have a tendency to be more kind of that 90-year-old position, where you're more forward head tilt, with your head tilt and leaning forward, and you don't breathe. When you're in that position, you don't have the ability to really expand your diaphragm and take really deep breaths in. Because breathing is a good way to get rid of stress also, or to help deal with it. And so I think people, when from the pandemic, people, their thoughts are ruminating. There's three real reasons why people get sick, and the base is inflammation. So the question is, where's that inflammation? Where's that weakest link in your body that kind of fits into? And then you've got to look at well, why does the inflammation get there in the first place? So the first way that it can get there is by trauma, and 9 out of 10 births have some type of cervical trauma in the neck. That's why you go see a chiropractor, and to make sure that things are in alignment. And then secondly, you have to take a look at thoughts. Oh, and also in the trauma, that's other things that would be included, like falling off a bike, falling out of a tree, tripping, falling, car accidents, things like that. Overuse syndrome, where you're carrying really heavy groceries and you don't want to make 12 trips, so you're trying to do it in three. Those kind of overuse type syndromes. A runner who runs, and runs with poor shoes, poor posture, that type of thing. Um, Toxins are everywhere. We have a big problem in this country with heavy metals. Every person in this country has some exposure to heavy metals. And besides that, you have chemtrails, you have the water that you drink, the air that you breathe, the food that you eat. You've got to make good choices in foods. Like when my mother was growing up, they didn't have like like glycophosphates, and Roundup that was being sprayed on plants and things, and then you're ingesting them. I mean, Monsanto, which is brought up by Bear, has huge lawsuits, and they just keep on paying them off. But the problem is that when we live in a toxic environment, I mean, Glade air fresheners, the sheets that you dry your clothes with, they have chemicals on it that you breathe them. It's not good for you. It really is. Uh, there's a link to certain diseases and certain chemicals. There are four of the big ones, like lead, cadmium, mercury, and zinc, which people have had exposure to. They cause health conditions. People who have heavy metal poisoning or have that big exposure sometimes have high blood pressure. How common is that? And
Wow.
so, that those toxins are important, like the quality of the foods, and you can't do too much about the air, but you can get, an air cleaner for your home. And there's good ones, bad ones. There's, it's like what you get what you pay for, so to speak. And then the last thing that people get sick from, and which undoes the toxins, like anything you do good for to get the trauma, get your body in alignment and the foods that you eat, that kind of thing, it can be all undone by what's going on in your head, And so that mental aspect of that is very traumatizing to your body. People ruminate. Like if you ever been had a girlfriend, a wife, and you've gotten an argument, and you go out and eat, you don't digest your food.
Hmm.
And or it just kind of sits there, and you have bloating, or you're agitated. And so if you look at what you're thinking about, it's really important to get a handle on your thoughts. Women have a tendency, especially to like ruminate. Like women I always say, like keep on saying the same thing over, like, but honey, blah blah blah, and you're going, and all men have to do is just say, I hear you, kind of thing. But the the thought part of it is really big because what happens is people watch CNN News or some other news media station, and when they do that, they're stuck on the emotion because they're being sold by emotion, and then they start thinking about it, and then they try to. Anybody needs to do is to watch the news at 10 o'clock at night anywhere because it's not going to change much between then and the next morning. So that would be a good way not to have a good peaceful sleep is to watch the news for sure. I
Oh
mean, does that
yeah,
make
because
sense?
yes, it makes absolutely the best sense because you think about it at late night, the news come on, and most of the time it's just bad news. It's not really good news. And then after the news, most people lay down and go to sleep with that subconsciously on their mind. And what you're saying is that too can affect you while you're resting. Wow,
Well,
I
that's
never really thought about that till now.
but that's why they tell you to do affirmations just before you go to sleep and affirmations
Yes.
when you get up in the morning because your brain's freshest then and your subconscious is open to suggestion.
Hmm. Interesting.
Mhm.
So with your conscience, you have your conscious of thinking, and then you have your subconscious.
Right. There's actually three brains. The one brain that I call the lizard brain is the one that is your survival. It's for instinct. It's your like that's your reactionary, like your how you react to things. It's the protective part of it. It has the five. It's sort of flight, fight, that kind of thing, fear. So that's what's being fed when you're watching things that scare you. And then there's the mammalian brain, which has your feelings and its memory. It's all based upon what happened in your unconsciousness from when you're a child. And then it stores those emotions. So, like, if you ever heard your parents argue a lot when you were younger, you're going to be reactive perhaps to a similar situation when you get older because that memory triggers off. And then the thinking brain, which is your logical brain, is, in the frontal cortex. This makes you rational. That's what gives you your common sense. Does this make sense? Should I do this? Should I go forward in this? And then, because you don't have to have that, uh, you don't have to think about, like if you're scared, this is the part of your brain that's going, yes or no. Does that make sense? Do I turn right or do I turn left? And doing that type of thing. It's rational. It's the brain that elicits that feeling, like, feelings from the past.
So, with the three parts of the brain that actually that functions with survival, feelings, and thinking. Now, do compared to men versus women, are they how are they compatible, or what are the differences between the two?
Well, women have this hormone that makes us bond immediately. Men don't. Men have it. They just don't have it in the same amount that we have. So, like when a woman gives birth to a child, they love the baby. They're connected. They want to make sure their whole family is like taken care of. And when women get stressed, that hormone is depleted. So when you have, that bonding portion of it, that, like, because they're, women are really responsible for the health in the family because you have um, those decisions, like, men get nagged, did you go to the doctor? You ask men if they're sick, and they'll tell you no. And you ask, they think sick is throwing up in a toilet. And women will have a whole list of like, "Oh, I've been having headaches, my neck's kinda bothering me over here. It's a little tight. I get tight around my shoulders," or, "I can't wear high heels anymore. I used to love wearing high heels, and, now it makes my back hurt right here." You ask men, "Does your back hurt?" I mean, I can't tell you how many times they're like, "So you have low back pain? Where's the low," "Where in the low back?" "Oh, like, kinda back over here." And, very rarely, I have to, like, almost drag it out of somebody, like, "Can you point your finger for me, please?" So, because it means something, just where people think the low back is where it is for me are sometimes 2 different things.
Oh, so well, technically, what you're saying is that um, women are more susceptible to having stress issues than men.
They are, with women, is to use cacao butter, and you can it's really good to, like, rub it across the shoulders, like, on your hands, on your feet, because in reflexology, there's portions of the hands and feet that represent different parts of your body. So if I was a guy, this Christmas, I would buy somebody some, their loved one, some cacao butter, organic, of course.
Oh, so
It's good. It raises the right that bonding hormone that we're talking about, and it helps diminish stress.
interesting. So how do you regulate that, and and how do you what are some of the symptoms that you can pick up on to regulate it and to move forward into the healing process?
Can you be a little more clear? So,
Like what I'm saying
are you
is, if if a person is experiencing a high level of stress, and like if you're experiencing a high level of stress, you'll either get a headache or you'll get an ache. But
okay.
when it's a when you're dealing with things emotionally and and silently, I mean, how is there a way you can pick up on it?
Well, people have different things that happen with stress. They gain weight, for instance, and they have a tendency when you do that and the cortisol levels go up, then your waistline has a tendency to expand. People always have a tendency when and it relates to like cholesterol turns into cortisol. So, but the cortisol is a big issue for stress. You also have, you have less sleep. You're not making good decisions. You're more accident prone. You could have high blood pressure. You're not like when you eat, you don't digest your food, or you're not hungry, or you eat overeat. Because I've seen people, since the pandemic has come on, that they either lost a lot of weight or they gained a lot of weight. So it depends upon how um, how well you do that. So if you follow like the 5 pillars in health, which the first one is nutrition, you need to eat clean and figure out how to put foods together properly so your body can utilize them better. Exercise, for a lot of people who don't, you can't get to a gym or the gyms get closed again, you can walk as fast as you can, as far as you can, for as long as you can on a regular basis. Um, And for the sleep part, before you go to sleep, you can stop watching things like, tonight, after I get done with our show today, I am going to be turning my computer off because I want to give myself a good 45 minutes before I go to sleep without having any light on. So David Asprey, who is the guy from Bulletproof Diet, um, he recommends glasses because if you wear the glass, you see people with camera glasses on, the yellow ones. You ever see people walking around with them? They help you create a barrier for the blue light on your computer during the daytime. And they're very soothing. I use them for long drives because sometimes I'm driving, for an hour, 2 hours at a time in bright sunlight. When I have them on, my eyes don't feel stressed. And then at nighttime, if I do have to do something on the computer, I have ones that are more red tint to them. And I can take them off and I don't have any issue. I can go to sleep right away in case I have to work. I'm working on a project and writing something up.
Hmm. So, what do you suggest? Before I get into your book, I mean, what are some of the suggestions that you have for your system if you want to manage your time and distractions and improve productivity?
I think the first thing you have to do is you have to have the mindset. You have to be able to look at what's going on with your health, and if there's anything that's like an iceberg. That's because part of the iceberg you never see. The part you see is evident, but you don't know what's going on below the surface. So I think you really need to get a health snapshot of where you're at now in order to move forward. And then you have to take a look at, because I talk sometimes about Einstein's time. And Einstein's time, how I understand it, is that when you're in your vibe, on days that, I talk to pro golfers and I talk to patients of mine, and I experience myself when I'm on my game, I don't have stress. Things get done magically. I can't believe how much work I can get done in one day. And then, and in other days, it seems like I start and I'm backed up into the next day of getting the things that I want to get done. So in Einstein's time, it's just flows. It's like going with the flow, and it flows. Connections, people who you meet, things that you want, things that you want to do. But you've got to look at in Einstein's time. They don't look at Newtonian time. Do you know what Newtonian time is?
Newtonia's time?
Newtonian time. Newtonian times when you're looking at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10:30. I got a call at 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, and that stacks things up. When you're looking at that, you're more inclined to be more stressed. If you just look at, I have 8 calls today, and you just set yourself up so you don't have any other distractions, then you can usually meet that. You're a lot happier at the end of the day than you are when you're trying to keep up with those deadlines. You're the hamster in the wheel.
Okay, that's awesome. So, what is it that motivates you as a doctor and business person?
What motivates me as a doctor is that, I retired for a while, and when I did that, um, I had a lot, usually when you're working during the daytime, so you don't get to see things that go on in the city. So in Boston, I started looking at people's faces, and sometimes I would ask people, you don't feel well, do you? Because you can see it, right? You can see it in someone's face if they really don't feel well, they're agitated. You can see that there's a strain. And I started asking people what was wrong with them. Do you got something going on that you need to talk about? And then I would tell them, oh, you should go see so and so, or you should do X, Y, and Z. But I was very bold in doing that because I was curious as to what people would say or how they would respond. And it made me go from a point of being doing part-time work to going back into wanting to learn. So that's when I went to acupuncture school. And so after acupuncture school, then I decided oh, I've got all these tools. How do I really help a lot of people? And also so that they can make better decisions about their health. Because my goal is to help masses of people have information so that they can decide which way they want, what their next best step is, what their path is, and if they want to work with me, fine. If not, I can help them find somebody to work with wherever they're at.
Also,
Does
some
that
of the important questions to some of the the important questions to ask is pretty much the who, what, when, where, and whys that's going on with the person in their body, or body and mind and body.
Well, what you got isn't necessarily what you got. I mean, one of my mentors and a physician always said that because, like, you can have symptoms, and if you go to a regular doctor, the doctor's going to give you something for those symptoms. But you never have, like, you've got to ask why. Why is it why do you have that symptom in the first place? And it isn't even a diagnosis that you need to have value. You've got to take a look at what is it? What is my environment, and how did I participate in creating that scenario, so that, and then look at, like, well, what, you have this, like, if you have high blood pressure, well, why do you have high blood pressure? Where's the inflammation? How did it start? Is it, even if it's genetically inclined, there's families that have certain medical conditions, but not everybody in the family gets them.
True.
So if they don't get it, if some people don't get it, then you can control your constitution by your thoughts, by what you eat, by how you exercise, and have in putting those pieces of the puzzle together. So you have to know, the big why I always say why. I was the person in school asking, how do you do that? Why is that? Can you show that again? I'm sure I've had a lot of teachers who want to explain to me, but but that's what motivated me to, like, when I was looking at, and when I was learning, and studying under some physicians that I was close to, that this made me look at, when somebody had something, I was like, well, why do you have it, and where's the, and you don't have to own it. I mean, this is what's going on. This is where the problem's at. This is the weakest link. Fix the weakest link, and then you can see other changes in the body, because the body is like a Swiss watch. It's all the organ systems have got to work like, like a Swiss watch does, with all those pieces of the puzzle working and moving in the right direction. And when they don't, it affects other parts about how the Swiss watch runs. The body's the same way.
Hmm. Interesting. So you want to jump into about this title of your best-selling book? Are you sick, fat, and tired?
And it's
Tell me
not,
about
are you
that
sick,
title.
fat, and tired? That's not the
Yeah.
title. The title is, why are you sick, fat,
Why
and
are you
tired?
sick, fat, and tired? Yeah.
Because people, like, if you are sick and tired, people basically know if they are. They know if they're tired. They know if they're fat. They can look by their clothes. They can look in the mirror. They can do a body composition test and see what the internal fat is, because you can be skinny and still be fat. And but you don't know if you're sick. And sick takes a while, and it takes a while to come about. Like, people just don't wake up one day and say, "Oh, I have cancer," or all of a sudden they have high blood pressure. There's things that have happened. That cardiovascular disease, 1 out of 3 people in the United States have it. There's, a huge number of people, huge. It's an epidemic of people who have diabetes, and there's a third of the population that exists that don't know they have it, because they have all the other, they have subtle signs and symptoms of it. But people don't, the first thing, food is medicine. The first thing you can change in your life to do to improve is, like, looking at a lifestyle change in your diet, and then exercise, and then you would consider doing some targeted supplementation, depending upon how things work out. But the book, Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired, is a guidebook, and it's a workbook, and it gives people, it's kind of like a do it yourself. Find out what is your health status now, where your weakest link is, and where your strongest link is. So your weakest link is going to be the high numbers, and the strongest link is going to be the low numbers, for sure.
Oh,
But you want to see what the pattern is. And when you can see what the pattern is, it's pretty clear where you can start your health journey.
so you want to tell us where can they find your book?
Well, you can find it on the internet. It's digital, and it's also a hard copy. The hard copy, I always send people to Amazon, um, and but it's, Barnes and Noble's carry it also, and other book carriers. It looks like this in case your audience can see it. Whoops, I
Okay.
never get
Yeah.
that part
Yeah.
straight.
Right there is fine.
Right here is fine like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
um,
Uh-huh.
and it's a book. It's not a super long book, but it's a very simplistic book. When I wrote this book, I wanted to make sure that everybody could understand it. So I hired my friend's son, who was 11 years old, to go through the book and highlight any word that he didn't know what it meant. And his,
Interesting.
and so when I did that, then his the other part of the when I hired him was he had to tell me a word that he could substitute for it when we talked about what that meant. And so it's really written, simplistically, it's very organized. And it looks at the 11 organ systems in your body. And what I offer is people who, get the book and who I spoke with, I've helped them look at what their pattern is so they can decide what to do and who to go see. It also is a really great advocating tool because you can do this questionnaire that's in here. And instead of going to your doctor and the doctor is like, and being whatever my doctor wants to do, you can go in with some assurance and some knowledge because knowledge is power, and then you will know how to stack that knowledge so that you can have a real conversation. Because we all know how much time doctors have to talk to you these days, so you want to make your time with them count. And so it's an important book, and I highly recommend this book before the new year because if you know where so many people fall off the wagon of doing their New Year's resolutions for their health, and one of the reasons is they don't know where to go. They don't know where to start that health journey. This is really a great opportunity to locate that, where to start, what to do. So for 1 year, you can be successful and you can sip into 2021 with a lot of confidence.
Okay. So, what social medias are you on any social medias that they can follow up and maybe get some tips or learn more about you and what you do?
I am. I'm on LinkedIn. And I'm sure they'll be in the show notes, right? But I'm on LinkedIn. I have a Facebook page. I have a personal page. I'm on Instagram. Those are my primary ones. And my website is called healthteamnetwork.com. And those are the best ways. And then in the book, if you want to have a chit chat with me, or if you go on my website, you can create, I can give you a half hour time to uh, 15 minutes longer than the Western medicine doctor does, to talk to you about your results so you know what to do. And then you can stay healthy and you can make sure that your immune system is up to par because you're going to have it.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Boulogne, for coming to the Halas Wilbourn show. We're running out of time. Is there anything that you want to say to the audience to encourage them or uplift them or the things that they really need to know about their health?
I'm going to give them a couple tips. And one of the tips is to make sure you stay hydrated. If you don't feel like you're always thirsty, throw some lemon juice, fresh lemon juice in the water. I recommend to get activated charcoal, the organic version, coconut usually, because if you're starting to feel a little bit queasy in your stomach, it's a good thing to take if you're having those body aches start. It's just a good precautionary type of supplement. And in practice, like if you can't sleep, listen to binaural beats. And make sure you get exercise. My second patient ever was 92 years old, and she said to me, she's from Atlanta, Georgia, by the way, when I was in school there. And I asked her what she did for exercise, and she said, I take my Dixie cup and I go out and I water my 115 plants. And I said,
Mm.
and that's how she got her exercise because she was so she said, she always had good health is that she ate well and she moved and she didn't stay stationary and stayed active. Yeah, so I think that's important. And I think you have to have good thoughts and do good deeds.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Boulogne, for coming, and I'll be looking forward and following up and to have you on the show again, and in the future about your up and coming events and things of that nature.
Can I just say one other thing? Do you mind?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. In January, I'm launching a beta course called Stronger Than Medicine, and I'll supply you with the link for it. And it's for busy professionals who want to be happy, healthier, and prosperous. And that can apply to your work because you can be more productive and have the energy that you need when you get home, and be more present and stay healthy and keep your immune system really up to par. So I'll give you the
That's
link to that, so people can check it out. It's appropriately priced for a beta, and it will run 6 weeks, and it will be a lot of fun. And you'll get to learn stuff, and then figure out like what your next best step is and what to do. Thank you.
how exciting. Hey, well, thank you again, Dr. Malone. And once again, I would like to invite you to the show again later on, later on next year, while we'll be approaching the curve, pretty much in the second curve of this pandemic, and see what's actually going on and how you'll be able to assist the people in having a healthier and better life.
Yes, absolutely. Looking
All
forward
right.
to it.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on the Halas Wilbourn show.
Thank you very
And
much.
thank you all
Thanks
for
for having
tuning in.
me.
And if you like what you heard, hey, hit the subscribe button and that little bell. Good night.